My name's Simon Sutcliffe. I'm a Methodist pioneer minister, VentureFX pioneer minister, and you are in Kidsgrove. This is Kidsgrove, which is right on the border between North Staffordshire and South Cheshire. And this is the Galley Community Centre in Kidsgrove, where it's the kind of base of operations for Immerse, which is the Christian community that's kind of emerged over the last 2 years. What we do now is that we run a community centre here, and all the things that you'd expect in a community centre. So we have different user groups, we've got judo, we have Weight Watchers, we have a special group or a group that works with adults with special needs and learning difficulties. We have one-off things. People use it for hiring for birthday parties, and last week we had this great fun day. It's the first time I've ever tried anything like that, and it meant we had bouncy castles and dance displays, judo displays, volleyball, coffee bars, everything. So it was a great time. So we do all sorts of different things there. And then we try our best to work with local councils and councillors and other local agencies. So at the moment we're busy helping them set up a residents association up on the estate here that we're based on. And we've got other kind of projects in the offing. One of the other pieces of work that we're looking for a start in September is to do some work with it's a house for women who have experienced domestic abuse. And often when these young families or women arrive here, they arrive with nothing. They've just arrived with the clothes that they're wearing. So we're just looking at helping to do some starter packs so that when they arrive, they've got some things ready for them, all the things that they might need to kind of get by in the first couple of days. And we're going to start a youth project, which is probably one of the biggest things that we've started. We've just got the funding for that now. So we spend time working with agencies, running groups, organising groups. The other things that we've got here are we run a kind of pop-up coffee bar here. Coffee features a lot with Immerse, and we run a stay and play, which is a kind of parent-toddler, adult-toddler group on a Friday. We've started both of them at Easter time, and stay and play in particular has been really successful, done some really good work. So we spend a lot of time doing lots of different things, but our aim really is there's a housing estate, an ex-miners estate that we're based on, and we're right on the edge of it here where the community centre is, and our aim is to try and make the world just a little bit better, really, make the estate a little bit better and offer any services and any work that people want to use us for. So we're both coming up with ideas, and at the same time we respond to other people's ideas about what they think's best for the community. So I guess my dream at the beginning was this kind of trendy nightclub kind of vicar type person, which lasted all of about 6 months before it really didn't kind of work out. And I expected to be doing lots of stuff with arts and all those sorts of things. And I don't know why I expected that. Maybe that's just it was a phase I was going through. I don't know. And then when we moved here, we still did some stuff with arts, and we tried to play around with arts. But actually, what's going on in the area, it just isn't that kind of place, really. So we kind of had to adapt quickly. And then when we left the church, we were given this church building, which literally fell apart around us. I mean, the whole thing just kind of started dismantling. And when we left the church building and we came up here, full time, it became really obvious that our role then was to be working on the estate, to be a resource to the community, to be working with other agencies and councils and local politicians and all that sort of stuff. So the dream's kind of shifted. It's very fluid, really, and we've had to adapt, or I've had to adapt in the early days, and then we as a team have had to kind of adapt quickly to the circumstances that we find ourselves in. So we call ourselves Immerse because there are 3 things we want to be immersed in. One is that we want to be immersed in an experience of God. So that means our worship, we want to be loud, we want to be experiential, we want to be emotive, we want to feel something. We want to be immersed in the narrative of God, and by that we mean we want to be immersed in the Bible, in Scripture, but also we want to be immersed in theologians, people who've talked about God in the past, in the church history, all the stuff that makes up our Christian narrative. And we want to be immersed in community, and that's got 2 parts. One is that we want to be community together with each other, and the other is that we want to be community. We don't just want to be passers-by in Kidsgrove, we want to be really part of the fabric of Kidsgrove. So I guess Immerse, our name, is part of our vision really about who we are now. I guess some of the high points, some of our best successes are, it's difficult to say. I mean, there have been real highs where some things worked. So for instance, when, can you remember the Philippine disaster when it was a hurricane, wasn't it, that hit in the Philippines, and people were sending aid out all the time, and we were looking at this and we realised that a lot of Filipino travellers send back boxes back home, and they're called balacabayan boxes, and they send them back home, and there's a whole industry around balacabayan boxes and containers that send these things back to the Philippines. So we decided that we would do a balacabayan box thing, and we just put it out to the community. We put it out on Facebook, on the internet, phoned a few friends up, and this was when we were down at the church, and over about 4 days we got tons and tons of stuff. Everybody was turning up with all this stuff, and then we got in touch with a company and they agreed to freight it out to the Philippines for free, and we kind of, so all those sorts of things that had happened. So that was a really good, we loved that. We did this arts thing, arts display installation down at the church when we were there, and it was all kind of around Christmas. And what we did was we used all the old stuff out of the old church and turned it into the nativity scene, and we did all sorts of things like that, and that was really successful. A lot of people kind of came to that. But I guess our most recent success was last week when we had the fun day, when so many people, it's the biggest thing we've ever tried to do. And we weren't quite sure what our relationship was with the community. We know we do a lot of work with them, we know we help them, we know we try and do work with them, but we didn't know how people would respond to us. And people, I mean, luckily the weather was good, but people just turned up in their droves. They just turned up. Some of the lowest points are, some of the more difficult times have been around sometimes when people haven't caught the vision for the group, and that's both been within, and so sometimes people have felt that this Immerse wasn't for them, and so they've moved on. It's been difficult. We're still trying, we've been going now, so I've been pioneering for 5 years now, but Immerse is only about 3 years old, so there was 2 years building up to it. Immerse is like 3 years old now, and I think we're still trying to work out what our identity is, so we're still figuring out who we are, and it becomes difficult for us to try and explain ourselves to other people. We don't think we're a church, so we don't call ourselves a church. We call ourselves a Christian community, but other people don't really know what that means. So I think we've had to learn. I've had to learn personally about relying a lot more on myself for my own spirituality and my own kind of worth, not depending on everybody else to do my religion for me, to do my faith for me, but to have to do that. I think then the community's had to learn that. So we're not the kind of community where you'll have a pastoral visit once a month, do you know what I mean, or those sort of things. Actually, if you're in need of help or you need to have a chat, then you've got to be grown up enough just to say, actually, could I talk to you for a bit? And then people will be rally around, but it's not going to be that kind of, it's kind of a grown-up Christianity, I would hope, that we're looking for. I guess there's been lots of practical things that we've had to learn, filling out funding bids, learning how to run a community centre, learning how to work the right things to say to the right people all the time. I used to say last year, my life feels like an episode of Alan Sugar. I feel as if I'm the apprentice, and if I don't come back with £3,000 out of a meeting, then I've failed that kind of day. So I've had to learn how to do a lot of those things as well. I guess the other thing that we've had to learn together as a community is about resilience. So when things haven't worked, or when we've lost out on something, or when times have been difficult, so we've not been able to work. It was very difficult, for instance, when we were leaving the church to come here, because we didn't actually make the decision to leave the church in many ways. The church was falling around about us, but we didn't know what to do at that time. We felt a bit lost in that kind of space. So just kind of learning to dig your heels in and say, do you know what, we're going to see this out, and we'll see it out together. And in some ways, what's happening in this last 6 months is probably the best 6 months we've had, really, as a kind of community together. but it's taken a lot of kind of pain to get here, a few kind of hard work to get to this stage, I guess. So resilience, that would be another thing that we've learned. For me, being a pioneer has been, the last 5 years has been one of the most liberating kind of 5 years. It's been the hardest. I've worked harder this 5 years than I think I've worked ever, and I've loved it. So I guess there's two ways I could talk about it. One is about my call as a ordained person. So I felt a call to the church. I felt a call to presbyteral ministry, to ordination in the Methodist Church. And it became clear in my first time in circuit ministry, and I was that I could never work out whether or not I was trying to be the church in the world, or to bring the world into the church so that the church could kind of see the world in a particular way. And I tried that, and it never really worked. And I always felt that even though that I was trying to convince churches to do things, to be part of to do mission, to be part of the world, but they were struggling to kind of catch that vision. And I couldn't work out whether it was just me who was really bad at selling the vision, or whether it was the church who couldn't get it, or didn't want to get it. And I still don't know what the answer is to that. So there was that. Martin Atkins calls it divine disquiet. So there was that going on in the early days. Often I'd kind of go to church, I'd lead a service, and a worship service, and I'd have my dog collar on and things. And then I'd get in the car on a Sunday night, and I'd wind down the windows, take my dog collar out, and wrap up the radio full blast and drive back home. And I always wondered why I had to kind of be different in order to fit in the church. And in the last 5 years, and particularly since with all the guys at Immerse, with the people here, this is the first time I felt that I'm both a Methodist minister and truly myself. And so I feel as if I've got a real integrity now in a way that I didn't have in my ministry before. Now, how long you can carry that on, who knows? I mean, maybe you get to a certain age and maybe I don't want this, or other things will happen in my lifetime. But for now, I feel that this is the most fulfilled and that I've ever been, and it's the most whole, I guess. I feel the most whole that I've ever been as a pioneer. I feel as if I'm doing exactly what I should be doing, the way I should be doing it, and the way that. So yeah, I guess that's the right word. There's a cohesiveness to my call in a way that there wasn't in the past. I guess why the project's important, and why VentureFX is important, and pioneering in general. So I'm passionate about pioneering in general in all its different kind of manifestations, all its different forms, and I'm passionate about that because I love the church, and I think the church can be better. I hope the church can be better than it sometimes is, and I don't think the church can remain static. We talk about mixed economies and all those that kind of language, but the church, I think, has to change, and will change quite dramatically. I think that's going to be forced on us anyway, because our resource base is shrinking so fast, both at human resource and physical and financial resource. Those resources are draining fast. So we're going to have no choice but to change. The question is what we're going to change into, and I don't know what that looks like. But those of us who are pioneering and doing different kinds of things that don't look like the inherited models of church, we're the ones who might be able to help the church understand its future and understand its direction. And in some ways, if we can create enough folk who can think theologically about this, what we might be able to do is that we might help the church understand its future by reconnecting something of its past, and recovering something of that. And so I don't think pioneering will save the church, because the church can do that all on its own. I think pioneering is one of the ways in which the church can learn about the kind of church it wants to be in the future. Do I enjoy being a pioneer? Yeah, I love it, and I couldn't imagine doing anything else now. Nor could I imagine what my life will be like when all this ends. I don't know quite what that's like.